Our campus must be dry. IU.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Dry Campus Podcast. Alongside you today are your usual co-hosts. My name is Ethan Dolman, and we also have Sai Balabata Petruni. And today we will be talking about IU's last game against Purdue, where they fell to the Boilermakers 81-69. And it was one of those games where it's like same old story. Purdue has had her number in the past few years, especially under the Archie era. Archie came in 0-5 against Purdue and Matt Painter, and it was just more of the same. In one and won the game, and there were plenty of issues as well. 3-point shooting is one, free throw another. Unable to be consistent on the offensive end. Definitely some defensive lapses as well, where Williams definitely had a good day inside, 22 points, 10 rebounds. And like we said, 3-point shooting. They made 11 of 17 3-pointers. Of course, that is way above average of what Purdue usually does. But at the same time, I felt like we also just could have been better on the defensive end in terms of guarding the 3-point shot. A lot of those shots that it did make were pretty open. So, Sai, what are your first initial thoughts of this game? A game in which Archie now moves to 0-6 versus the IU rival Purdue.
Ethan, I am pissed off. I am really, really pissed off. This was a game where we were coming off of some momentum. We had put a string of good games together. We won a couple games. We took Wisconsin to the limit, and then we won another game against Nebraska. And then we absolutely lay a freaking egg out there against Purdue. I'm pissed off. That's all I got to say. We came into this game talking about how this was maybe the most important game thus far of Archie Miller's coaching career here in Indiana. And what does he do? He absolutely lays an egg. And I'm not talking about, Purdue shot better than us. Purdue, made more threes, made more free throws. Travion Williams, they out-rebounded us. I'm not talking about each of these individual stat categories because we're going to get into those later on in the podcast. But, man, one thing that I was really disappointed in was just our effort and our hustle. We got out-hustled by Purdue. We're a team where, if you watch these last 4 games before the Purdue game, one thing that was for certain, we might not have been a great shooting team, but we were showing effort. We almost won that Wisconsin game off of pure effort. And the fact that our arch rivals come in to our home turf and just showed that much better of an effort than we did, and we went back to playing our scared brand of basketball, I am pissed off, Ethan. And guess what? Archie Miller, you're on the hot seat now.
Yeah. I mean, this was a game for him that was, and we had said this earlier, it was the most important game in for Archie Miller. It was, being 0-5 against Purdue and then coming up, and then, of course, just the same old story, laying an egg. And part of me is, yes, pissed off because yet again we were out hustled and out beat by Purdue. But at the same time, in a way, I'm not shocked because it's the same story, because we see it every single year. And and we did mention earlier, the 3-point shot for Purdue. I did notice something interesting though when I was rewatching the highlights. So Purdue went 11 of 17 from 3. During the game, it was because remember the first part of the second half, it was close. It was back and forth. Purdue always had the lead, but it was anywhere from a 5-point lead to it got down to a 1-point lead. At one point, got down to 50-49. Trace was going to work. Our offense was flowing enough to stay in the game. And after that point, 50-49, Purdue had already hit 9 3-pointers, which means that there were only 2 3-pointers that Purdue had hit when the lead was only 1 point. And so my point there is, like, once they realized, all right, we're down, or we're only up, when Purdue realized we're only up 1, they need to go to work. They went to the inside. They went to Williams to get those buckets. And as important as those 3-pointers were in the first half for Purdue to get them that lead, and then to your point about the hustle, when the game mattered the most, when it was a 1-point game, Purdue went inside and dominated and it went to Williams because he's one of the best centers in the Big Ten. And that shows, ultimately we got out physicaled. Ultimately, when the game mattered, we weren't able to grab enough rebounds. We weren't able to score enough points in the paint. You look at Trace Jackson Davis's stat line, obviously 25 points. I'll take that any day. 9 of 16 from the field. But you look at the two glaring things. You have 7 of 14 from the free throw line. That's just bad. And I know he's a big man, but he's better than that. I think he can shoot somewhere around 70%. And I think he's actually around that for the season. Maybe he dropped after this game. But also the 4 rebounds. I mean, 2 offensive, 2 defensive rebounds. You're averaging 1 rebound every 10 minutes, in a game against your rival where you are the tallest and biggest person for IU. I'm not going to go straight to the point, or I'm not going to go, somewhere else and say that's lack of effort. But, I mean, come on, man, you got to get more rebounds than that. Race kind of did his part. He had 10 rebounds. But that stat alone just kind of sets the tone for how the night went when the game really mattered.
Oh, and I mean, if you look at the stats for rebounding, we were out rebound 38-30. And if you look at offensive rebounds, we actually out rebounded them by 1, I believe. I'm not sure what the exact, except most of their offensive rebounds came in that second half towards the end of the game. And it was Travion Williams just grabbing the ball and getting second chance points. That has killed us all year in a lot of games where down the stretch, we give teams second chance opportunities. And the problem is, sure, Trace might not have had a ton of rebounds, but if you look at other teams play, it's not just their big men trying to get rebounds. It's their guards. Their guards are trying to get rebounds, and our guard play was absolutely horrendous. Armaan Franklin came off the bench, did his part. I think it's time to insert him back into the starting lineup because clearly we have missed him. But once again, is there some sort of situation where if Armaan's if Armaan's playing, then Allen Robb can't coexist with him and play well while he's playing as well? Can we not put it all together? It seems like Robb and Al had great games when Armaan was sitting. Armaan comes back. I believe they combined for about 7 points. That is terrible. That is terrible. We needed more production from them, and we did not get anything. And I'm not even talking about three-point shooting because we rely on Al and sometimes Rob for a lot of three-point shooting. But, I mean, come on. They've been able to penetrate the last few games, and they did not even try this game. The offense was just looking sloppy. Obviously the 3-point percentage speaks for itself. They shot 65% from 3. We shot about 17% from 3. We were 3 for 18. But as you said earlier, we were still in the game even with that 3-point deficit. And then that's when we started missing free throws because look, one thing I've noticed the past couple games is, we're able to get to the free throw line a lot. We foul quite a bit, and that can be up to questionable calls. Big Ten referees, you don't know what you're going to get, but we're able to get to the free throw line a lot, and we have not been able to make the most of that. We shot 55% from the free throw line, 16 for 29. That's 13 free throws we missed. We lost by 12. Now you're not going to go 100% from the free throw line, but you're going to give yourself a chance if you have a better free throw percentage. And guys who have a good free throw percentage for the season were missing a lot of free throws. Every time we went to the line, down 3, down 4, 1 of 2, 1 of 2, 0 of 2. You're not going to win games like that when you're given an opportunity to make it close. And it's not like Purdue shot a whole lot better from the free throw line, but it's that we weren't able to win any of those little battles, whether it was rebounding, whether it was free throws, whether it was 3-point shooting. We weren't able to win any of those battles, and that's why we lost. And at the end of the day, that comes down to coaching. your guys are not showing up for the most important games, and that is coaching. That is the amount of belief that you instill into your players. And when guys like Rob and Al lay an egg and combine for 7 points, that means they are scared. That means they are not mentally and emotionally ready to play this game, and that is on Coach Archie Miller.
I thought and I'll get to Archie in a second here. I have a couple more points. One, when you brought up the fact that it was kind of crazy. Once Armand comes back, then Al and Rob all of a sudden go down. I'm looking at how many shots each guy took. Trace led with 16. Armand had 15, only 6 of 15, but I felt that his presence was much needed for the game. Al and Rob each shot only 5 shots. So that tells me, like, once Armand comes to the game, which I guess, I would say consensus top 2 player here for our team, they shy away. And what's another interesting thing is they're both older than Armand. Rob's a junior, Al's a senior. And it's like, sure, I mean, talent comes, in all ages. Obviously, Trace is our best player as a sophomore. But at the end of the day, Al and Rob being senior and junior leaders, and especially when you're playing a game or a team like Purdue, you got to have experience show out. And the fact that they shied away once Armand came back, I guess it's just kind of telling on who are the real leaders of this team. One other point before I get to Archie, fouls did kind of go both ways. I mean, these refs were off. They were 51 foul calls. 51. That's just ridiculous. I mean, there's no way there should be over 50 fouls called in a Big Ten basketball game. They weren't letting anybody really be that physical on both sides. I felt that there were maybe a couple of more tic-tacky calls against us, but Purdue had their fair share as well. I think Purdue had an argument for some bad calls. I'm not going to take anything away from that. I think that was just more on the refereeing crew, just not allowing, them to play the game of basketball. But yeah, going to Archie, like I said before, this was a massive game for him. And again, he flops. And there's something to be said for just inconsistency or consistent inconsistency against your arch rival Purdue. And at a certain point, you just have to really take a deep look and say, I always felt like when you're hired as the IU coach, yeah, you're coached to win games. You're coached to win, you're getting paid to win the Big Ten and further. But another big thing is you got to beat Purdue on a consistent basis. That's another, I would say a top tier duty you have as an IU basketball coach. And he keeps missing the target on that. He's 0-6 now against Purdue. And at a certain point, you just have to look at that. And like you said at the beginning, just a lack of effort and just a lack of leadership. Leadership is top down. It's a pyramid. And, if you see consistently that our upperclassmen aren't up for the task yet again, after being humiliated by them year after year after year, I think you have to look at the very top, who's Archie, and see, what is he the main issue here?
Yeah, and like you said, leadership is top down. Archie instills that belief in his older guys, and his older guys instill that belief in the younger guys. And if the older guys don't have belief, maybe it has to be due to something that Archie's doing wrong. And that's the biggest issue for me. It's not missing shots or not rebounding well enough, or all these stat lines don't matter to me as much as just down the stretch, end of the game. It does not seem like we're a confident team, and it shows in the way we play. Offensively, we're turning the ball over, we're sloppy, we're I know you didn't think it was as bad, but I thought the shot selection was really bad in that last game, where we're just chucking up shots that we should not take. We're not moving the ball like we were in previous games that we were winning. and finding our opportunities. I also thought, I thought some of the lineups that Archie's put out there all season have been kind of questionable. We've kept it close, in the first half of most of these games, first 8 minutes or so. And then Archie throws in a questionably young lineup. He throws in Christian Lander, who I believe should sit the rest of the season out. I don't think he's ready. I think he needs to put some more time into the gym, get stronger maybe a little bit, and just, develop his game a little bit, because he only played 2 minutes, but in those 2 minutes, he was just a liability. And I think Purdue went on a big run in those 2 minutes that he was on the floor. On the other side of things, and to go along with that, he's put together these lineups in the first half where, you got guys like Lander, Leal, Galloway, and Geronimo all out there at the same time with no veteran presence. And the other team will go on a run. You can't do that, because at that point we're always coming from behind and we're always trying to chase the other team. And that's not the type of game that we want to play, because we are a defensive team. We want to keep it close for the most part. So, that's an issue I have with him. The other thing, with lineup, especially for this game, a guy who was really playing well these last few games was Anthony Leal. He only played 4 minutes. And when you have a game where guys like Rob and Al are just not getting it done, give Anthony Leal a few extra minutes. I mean, that's coaching 101. One guy's not doing it, put another guy in and see if he can get something done. That's basic coaching. You don't have to know the X's and O's to know to do that. So it's just so frustrating when a coach is not getting the most basic things right.
It's also just inconsistent looking back in a very important game against Wisconsin, and Anthony Leal is playing like every minute in that game, seemingly, against Wisconsin, right? Helped you get that game to 2 overtimes in a game. You start at the situation, there were 2 minutes left, fourth quarter, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win that game. Wisconsin was somehow able to get away, but and then you have Anthony Leal play 4 minutes against Purdue. It's just, there's inconsistency there. And, there's this, I don't know the quote specifically, but there's like a Bob Knight quote that goes like, your butt on the bench is, he uses a different word than butt, it says your butt on the bench is a huge motivating factor, and he kind of goes on there. And, can't that be the case for Rob and Al? Like, when they're out here, Rob 2 of 5, Al Durham 1 of 5, Rob fouled out, each had 4 points. Al Durham only able to grab 1 rebound. Like, maybe try sitting them and playing guys like Leal. And so that's why I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate. Like, when you said when we had that really young lineup out there, that was wrong. And I do agree to an extent, but also when you have Al and Rob playing the way they are, then, where do you go? Right. Like, I think maybe Archie was stuck a little bit between a hard and a rock place, and I can sort of understand at least the in-game decisions. Obviously you look at the whole outside picture and you look at the how the seniors and juniors should be leaders, and that issue runs through him for sure. But I'm saying in this game specifically, I feel like you almost may just have to try anything you can.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but when I'm talking about these extremely young lineups, and coupled with the point about Rob and Al and switching guys out, you can switch a guy out and input another guy. I'm talking about how if you just put in a completely young lineup, like he has in certain situations, defensively it becomes a liability, and now you have issues on that side of the ball where your identity is defense. And if you're giving up a ton of points and giving up a huge run in a short period of time, it's going to be incredibly problematic, because if we're giving up an 8-0 run to Purdue in 2 minutes, knowing our offense, it's going to take us 4 or 5 minutes to make that up. So, that was kind of the point I was making there. But you got to just make slight adjustments. You don't have to go huge or anything like that. But as you said, stay consistent. It seems like we're always kind of in that figuring it out phase where we're trying to figure out what lineups work. You can't keep being in that phase. You have to go with what works. And it seems like he has not figured that out. And it's frustrating and worrisome and for us fans, because now we're 3-4 in the Big Ten after losing a couple games that we definitely should have won. And we're under 500 heading into a gauntlet of difficult games. And it's going to be tough. And it's the first time this season where I'm really nervous about not making the tournament again. Because now we got Iowa coming up. We got teams like Illinois. We got teams like Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa again. You know, it's gonna be so difficult to win games like this, and it just, I don't know. It's frustrating because we weren't able to win the ones that we were supposed to win.
Yeah. And I'm looking at our schedule now. I'm just laughing. 4 of our next 5 games consider of Iowa, Michigan, and Illinois. I mean, and then we got home Rutgers in there. I think that's a winnable game. I mean, we can, like, realistically, we could lose every single game we have left. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. But, you talk about, realistically winnable games for us. Like, I think at this point, man, if we're going to have to upset some guys if we want to make the playoffs. I think we're at that point, and that's fair to say. And I wanted to, maybe before we go into Iowa, talk about more of the Purdue game. 2 things. 1, 3 of 18 from the 3-point line. I mean, you just gotta be better than that. Like, you're a Big Ten basketball team. You just gotta be better than 3 of 18. That comes with better shot selection as well. But another point I have is that you look at 2 other teams, Illinois and Ohio State. Both of those teams hired their respective coaches, Coach Underwood for Illinois and Coach Chris Holtman, I believe, for Ohio State. The same year Archie was hired at IU. And you look at those 2 programs right now, right? Illinois, they've kind of been up and down a little bit, but they're, talent-wise, an extremely talented team, and they're a consistent top 25 team. Ohio State also ranked 15th right now. They're doing well. They're 11-3, 5-3 in the Big Ten, and just doing well, right? And then you got us, and you would think, out of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio State, historically IU has been the better college basketball program, but this just shows kind of a reality setting in of just, we are becoming a mediocre program in the Big Ten, right? I think a good comparison is like Nebraska football, where, you think of Nebraska football, they have championships, and especially in the 90s and all that, great rivalries against Texas and others, but they suck now, and they have sucked for a while, and they have this, supposedly good coach now, and Frost, and he's not good, and, there's similarities there, and it's just, I don't want to say it's scary to think where this program may go, but or as fans, we have to somehow adjust our expectations, because the expectation is to beat Purdue on a consistent basis. And they've won 11 out of the past 12 times. Like, it's almost getting, or it is embarrassing at this point. It's almost getting to the point where, it's not a rivalry. It's a massacre of one team against another. So I don't know. It's just extremely frustrating to lose this game on a consistent basis, and something I feel like has got to change. And unfortunately, you look at the rest of our schedule, or at least kind of the next 5-6 games, and you're just really scrambling to find a win. Hopefully we play Michigan State again, or they can get that game on another time, because I think they're a winnable, or they're a beatable team. So yeah, just frustrated overall as I stare into our next opponent, Iowa, who's, you can argue, is a number in March Madness. They're that good.
Yeah, last point about this, Archie might be a good X's and O coach. I'm really not sure, because I don't see it all the time on the court. But, I feel like our team is, we have one of those programs where we can get good players. We can get talented players. We still have the name recognition to be able to do that. We need a Tom Allen type of coach. We need a coach who maybe not the greatest X's and O's guy, but we need a motivator, man. We need someone who can actually instill belief in these guys, and Archie's not the type of person who's been able to do that, and that's been a problem. And that's the last thing I'll say about that. But moving on to Iowa, man. I mean, I have a feeling this game could be ugly. I really think it might not be close at all. I mean, you're talking about the best player in the country, Luka Garza. Averaging 27 points, 9 rebounds, ridiculous stuff. This team averages 92 points a game, which in college basketball is ridiculous and nothing close to any amount of points we've ever scored. They rebound really well. They do a lot of things really well, and they shoot threes really well. They pretty much play the type of game that really gives us trouble. And I just don't see a path to victory in this game because we just do not have enough offense to match their offense. And we can play great defense all we want. But if they're hitting threes, if Luka Garza is just getting inside and, making his presence felt, it's not like we can stop Garza, and it's not like we can, we haven't done a great job recently of stopping three-pointers from going in. The only way we have a shot in this game is if we hit three-pointers, and I don't have the confidence that we can do that. I think that's really the only path to victory because, as well as Trace Jackson Davis might play, I don't see it really making that much of a difference. I know in most of the games we've talked about, keys to victory. TJD dominates inside and wins the battle against the opposing big. That's been the formula. I don't see that as the formula this game. I think for us to have any sort of a chance, our guards need to show up and hit threes.
Yeah. Iowa just kind of plays a game where they're like, outscore us, try. And usually teams fail. Looking at their last 5 games, which are all wins, 87, 77, 89, 86, 96. I mean, it's just ridiculous how good they are at shooting the basketball. They're a great 3-point shooting team. They're great inside with Garza. They got Bohannon, who's a great ball handler too. You can pretty much name anybody on that team and they can shoot the ball. So yeah, I mean, in terms of keys to victory, I think, and I don't know necessarily which one, but you should focus more on either the inside part of the game for Iowa, as in try and, always double team Luka Garza or something like that, or really try your best to prevent perimeter shooting. But they're going to thrive in at least one of those departments. You're going to have to hope Iowa just misses some threes. I mean, that always helps, right? I mean, we could be talking a different story if Purdue just missed a couple of threes, quite frankly. But obviously that didn't happen, and they were open and they hit them as a team should. And then offensively, yeah, we got to hit our 3-pointers. We got to hit our free throws. We're going to have to play our best game of the year. I mean, and if I'm trying to think of our best played game of the year so far, honestly, I may say Wisconsin was perhaps top to bottom our best game played this year. Maybe Providence or Stanford early on when we kind of dominated them. But we're just gonna have to play an extremely clean game of basketball. I know that's a just broad way of saying it, but I can't really think of one thing. Obviously, Trace is going to have a good night. He's going to have better than 4 rebounds. And we're going to have to shoot way better than 18 or 16%, whatever we were from 3-point land, and we got to be much better than 55% at the free throw line. Because if that won't cut against Purdue, obviously you're going to get beat by at least 20 against Iowa if that's the case. They allow 73 points a game, Iowa does, so they're not a great defense team by any means, but it's the fact that they average 92.2 points a game. That's the thing. And yeah, so I think we lose, obviously. I mean, this is, I think, top to bottom, the best team in the Big Ten. I think they're going to win the Big Ten regular season. I think they're going to have the best record by when it's all said and done. I'm trying to think of a score prediction, maybe like 85-71. I think, what's that? 14 points. I'm guessing the line's going to be around there as well. I would say 85-71, maybe keep it sort of close, but Iowa just pulls away and wins easily in the last 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think, you kind of brought up a good point. We either need to guard the 3-point line heavily or, just clamp down on Luka Garza inside. I think I'm leaning towards guarding that 3-point line and kind of, just having Trace play as tough as he possibly can or race on Luka Garza. And, he might drop like 35, but if we're limiting 3-point shots, that gives us the best chance. I'll get to you one sec. But I just wanted to say the other important stat in this is going to be rebounding, and especially offensive rebounding on both sides. We need to get a lot of second chance opportunities, but if you watch Luka Garza play, he gets a lot of offensive rebounds and he gets buckets off of those offensive rebounds. So it's going to be important to kind of limit those and make sure that when Iowa misses a shot, that it's an empty possession for them, and that's that.
I was just going to say one thing, then you can speak. How we beat Iowa last year was exactly how you said. We let Luka do his thing, right? I think Garza, he had like 40 points maybe? I mean, he absolutely went off, but the rest of the team didn't do that well. And yeah, they were hitting some of their threes, but we were guarding the three extremely well. And yeah, they would get 2 points, but, we would come down and score. Our offense was really good that game, though. That was one of those green going off games, and we were clicking. So maybe Archie kind of looks at our last game against them as a little bit of a formula. Maybe let Luka Garza just do his thing and just try and something else. It worked for us last year, but it only worked for us last year because we were able to score the basketball. So that's going to have to happen this time around.
Yeah, I mean, last year, Devontae Green was going off, hitting some stupid shots. We had behind the basket seats for that. That was a crazy atmosphere of a game. I remember just a funny little side story for all the listeners here. I believe, Iowa's coach's son, I forget his name. What's his name?
McCaffrey. Or the last name is McCaffrey.
Yeah, so that kid's at the free throw line, and we're just shouting "Daddy's boy" at him, and he misses his free throws. It was a great feeling.
Felt like we were a part of it.
But yeah, as you said, I agree with that. I think that's the way to beat him. I think if you really clamp down on the 3-point line, guards have to play really good perimeter defense and make sure that we contest shots. Luka Garza is going to get his, but we're not. I don't think our path to victory is going to, double team Luka, because, 3 is greater than 2, and we can't match 3-pointers if we're giving them open shots. We just can't. And so we can handle Garza scoring in the paint because we're a better paint scoring team. So I feel like that's the only way we can, kind of keep it close. As I said, rebounding is really important, especially, making sure Iowa doesn't get those second chance opportunities, because that's something that's killed us late game, and that's something that Luka Garza is really, really good at. So box him out. Lastly, please, for the love of God, make your damn free throws. It's not that hard. You're getting a free shot. It's as free of points as you'll ever get. So my prediction for this game, I think we're a good enough defensive team to make sure they don't score like 90, but I'm gonna go 84-66. I don't think it's that pretty.
Yeah, I mean that can very well happen. I don't know what the line is. I'm guessing it's somewhere around 13, maybe 14. But yeah, I just, this is a game we'll probably lose. But hey, remember 2 years ago when we somehow went into Michigan State and beat them when we were on like the 10-game losing streak? Like, I've seen crazier things happen. And I guess the one little beam of hope that I'm holding on to is that, look at last year. Yeah, we did lose to Purdue twice, and we played horribly when we played them, but we were able to get good wins against Michigan State, against Penn State, against Ohio State, right? We were able to kind of shrug off those defeats and come out and win or play competitive the next game. I think this team, that was one of the weakest efforts I've seen from them this year. And they usually do a fairly good job bouncing back. So you hope that happens. But, I think it would have been a perfect time to play a team like Rutgers or Northwestern or Michigan State. But, you get arguably the best team in the Big Ten. So you got to go out there and just play our brand of basketball and see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, we got a little unlucky when the Michigan State game got canceled because that's a perfect bounce back game. As bad as Matt Painter has had Archie's number, Archie has had Izzo's number, so which is an insane kind of thing to say, but it's kind of true. Archie Miller has done a really good job against Michigan State, and we won some big games against them. But as you said, we got Iowa, and it's a tough one, man. But we've had those years where we had crazy long losing streaks, and we've been able to get something done. But it's disappointing to see kind of the complacency in which us as fans, as Indiana basketball fans, have kind of had to come down to when it comes to our expectations. This used to be a blue blood program that consistently would be a top 25, top 15, top 10 school every single year, and we've just completely dropped off from that, and we're mediocre, and we have to live with mediocrity. And with that being said, could this be Archie's last year? Maybe. I hope he's able to prove himself. I think that would be really cool. But it's just one of those things where every time we think something good is going on with this team, it's always one step forward, two steps back, and that has been consistent for the 4 years that Archie's been coach. And it just doesn't ever seem like we're ever able to go on a hot streak where we're playing really well together as a team and we're winning numerous games in a row. And it's tough. Big Ten is even more tough than it was last year. So last year we were able to kind of find our footing and figure things out for a brief stretch, and unfortunately Corona kind of screwed our chances of having our first tournament berth since that 2016 year, I believe. But it is what it is, and Big Ten's a lot tougher this year, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous about whether or not we're gonna get to that point. But as you said, really just got to go out there and try our best. That's really all we can do against this team. and hope for the best. I'm feeling kind of good about this game in terms of I'm not going into this game with expectations like I have in previous games. So, the less expectations I have, the less hurt this team can make me, Ethan.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I definitely get the most mad during the Purdue games and then everything else. But yeah, I mean, look, this team's got nothing to lose, man. It's Ole Miss going up against IU in football. They had nothing to lose. They were loose. Look at what happened there, And like I said, 2 years ago, we were able to go into Michigan State and win. And can we win? Yeah, things can somehow go our way. I don't see us winning, but we got nothing to lose. Go in there, give it your best shot. You may hit some more threes than what you think, but if at least do the fundamentals, at least hit your free throws, don't turn the ball over, play good defense, and there may be luck. We may have some luck come our way, and if that happens, then we'll take it and we can maybe win. But if not, at least you can say you've played a hard-fought game and move on. I think this game for me is show that I want Archie to show that he can prepare for a game. And then, I want everybody to show, that they're out here to win. They're out here to play and hustle. And if I see that, and if we lose a tough game, yeah, I'll be disappointed, but I'll at least nod at the effort and appreciate being an IU fan. So that's kind of my last take there on the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll appreciate it, but on the other side of that too, I'm tired of showing good effort and coming close, and we really did our best without coming away with the win. Obviously, against Iowa, I'd take that with a grain of salt if we were able to really make it close. But in a lot of these games, we just haven't. I just want that statement win, man. And if we're able to get that, I'll feel a lot better.
This would be one. This would be a big statement win.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Obviously, but I just don't think it'll happen. It probably won't. But either way, Ethan and I will be watching it very closely on Thursday. Thursday night against Iowa on the road. Big game. So we'll be live tweeting that game at PodDry. You can follow us on Twitter. Feel free to, DM us or add us or anything and get our opinion on different things and maybe tell us something, a topic of conversation that you'd like to hear on the show, suggestions, anything like that. We're always willing to listen to that. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at DryCampusPod. On both of those avenues of social media, we'll have all the information you need about, when podcasts are coming out, so you can get all the content that you need for Dry Campus. We're really excited about this game, and we hope you guys are too. And we'll be back here next time to talk about to recap the Iowa game and preview the next game on the schedule. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of the Dry Campus Podcast. Grab your flasks and have a great night.
Our campus must be dry.